This video is going to show you how to set up address record A00000. I think I said 5 zeros there. That's what I meant to say. It's fundamental for the new financial statements. It's a very simple thing. This video is going to explain why we set it up, some background information, and then how to actually set up the record. The sort of the three parts of the video is why, a little discussion about background information needed, and then actually doing it. When we are making the financial statements, as many of you already know, the accounting manual, which I have on the screen here, requires you to break your receivables down into the organization that is above you, okay, that is one line of your receivables, and then the receivables from the organizations that are below you, then from other denominational entities, and then other receivables. Okay, so denominational receivables are broken into the three categories of the receivables from the organization above you, organizations within your territory, and then other denominational entities. We also have to do that several places, that breakdown. We have to do it for loan receivables. You can see it not so clear here because the illustration is missing it, but it is required to be broken down for loans as well as accounts receivable, the same three categories. And we do the same thing for accounts payable, the organization above you, the organization within your territory, and then other denominational entities. Now, the reason we have to break these and display them separately is that those are considered related parties. As you remembered back from your intermediate accounting, we have to disclose related party information, and the organization above us and the organizations within our field are considered related parties and so have to be separately disclosed. The setup we're doing today enables us to break our receivables and payables into those three categories. This is just to remind you that we set up our interorganizational receivables. Almost everyone listening to this will know what I'm about to say. But we set up our interorganizational receivables and payables in an account that starts with an A, and the account code is the org ID. It is common, and almost every organization will for sure have an interorganizational receivable for the organization above them, and then for the organizations within their territory, and then they may have sort of an outlier, another interorganizational receiver. The key point is that the org ID is the account code for those interorganizational accounts. They all start with A. All org IDs start with A. We're going to see why in a minute. And so for that reason, we put them in the A region of our accounts, our chart of accounts. In order to understand how to set up address record A00000, you have to have a clear understanding of org IDs and the way they work. Now, most of you know this already, but in order to be clear and make sure there's no misunderstandings, let me give you a short, brief explanation of org IDs and the way they work. Now, org IDs are available in the church accounting manual. Let's just look at ECD, just a quick little peek. And if you go down to any entity in the yearbook, you could see there's a section called System Codes, and underneath it is something called org mast ID. Okay, so right here is ECD's org ID. Okay, let's just go down to another entity. Here's the Burundi Union Mission. And if we root around and look around in the Burundi Union Mission, somewhere there's the System Codes section. Under Org Mast ID, there's the Org ID. These are assigned by Secretariat, and almost every Adventist organization has one. And you just apply up through the Secretariat in your field to get Org Mast ID assigned to an organization, and we shorten it in the SunPlus world by just saying org ID. Now let me show you how these org IDs work. So the general conference is A11111, 5 digits after the letter A. if we look at all of the organizations within the General Conference, this is not all of them, but these are all of the divisions, and you see they all start with A, just like it started A, but they all have some different coding. So ECD is AF11141s, ESD is A5123441s, IAD, and so forth. I haven't listed them here, but the GC institutions would have a coding that also starts with an A. So let's take a look at NSD. NSD starts with AR1111. All organizations within NSD start with AR. AR, you see AR C111 for China Union Mission. Japan Union Conference is ARD111. And I haven't listed the institutions within NSD, but at a union level institution would start with AR as well. And then let's go and look at the Korean Union Conference. The Korean Union Conference consists of East Central Korean Union Conference, Midwest, each of these, and these institutions. I've listed just a few of them for illustrative purposes. They have more institutions in that field than what I've shown, but that doesn't hurt the illustration that I've left a few of them out. But you could see that Korean Union Conference starts with AR, indicating that it was within NSD, but it is ARG111, and all of its organizations start with ARG, including the Samyuk University is ARG, Korean Samyuk Foods, and so forth, all start with ARG. So now let's look. East Central. East Central was ARA, indicating it was under the General Conference. AR indicating it was under NSD, ARG indicating it was under Korean Union Conference, and then ARG8 is the code for the East Central, and then these academies within ARG8 all start with ARG8DO, ARG8SC, ARG8WO, and so forth. What we have to do is to think about, for our sort of class example, I'm going to set up address record 0000 for the East Central Conference of the Korean Union. So this one right here is what we're going to set up for our class example. So let's pick out a few things here. First off, the East Central Conference, our class example, that's financial statements we're working with. That is their org ID. So let's register that in our mind, write that on a piece of paper. The org ID of the entity that we're preparing the financial statements is that right there. And all of their organizations start with ARG8. In organizational codes, it's the range ARG8. It is the range for all of the organizations within its region. So if we go back, ARG8 is the way to define the organizations within the territory. The organizational code for our organization is ARG811, and the organizational code of the organization above us is ARG111, the Korean Union Conference. And we need one more bit of information to prepare address record A000, and that we need the code for the organization above us, the official acronym for the Korean Union Conference. We'll put KUC, so we have the 4 bits of information we need. We need the org ID of the entity we're implementing. We need to have a clear understanding of the organizations below it. All start with ARG8 as the defining range for the organizations below it. We need the org ID of the organization above it, ARG111, the Korean Union Conference, and we need the acronym short name for the organization above it, KUC in this case. And so with that, we're all set to start building address record A00000. Here is the first page of the new financial statements, the first page here has the instructions that this video is covering. That is, you really don't need this video, you just can follow these instructions here on this first page. It is also important to know that if we make some changes in the concepts and the way that things are set up, we will make sure that we change these instructions here. So these instructions on the first page of the financial statements, in a sense, override this video. For example, if we need to change the way we do things or add additional information, we'll put it over here. So you might take a peek every time you set up the financial statements to make sure that we haven't changed some of the instructions here. So this video is to sort of build the idea of following the instructions on this first page. And over time, we may put these instructions deeper in the financial statements instead of the very first page. But since they're sort of important, I thought we'd put it right at the beginning. So at least in the beginning here for a while, everyone will see it right in front of them when they open the financial statements. After you've done this, if you want to make life simpler for your organization, you could remove this page or change the information on this page. Now, many people will wonder, why don't we just put the information that we want to filter by, like the organization that is right above us and the organizations right below us, in prompts up here in the top section, and just use those prompts to filter to get what we need over there in accounts receivable. Well, and we did at first. We built these financial statements exactly that way, and it was just going to be great until we encountered the cloud environment. Cloud might be an exaggeration. Any place that has several business units sharing the same server, that would be an aggravation if we put it up here. That would mean that every time you ran the financial statements, you had to change it. So each entity running the financial statements, I think Gustavo over in Russia has 50 some organizations. He would have to create 50 sets of financial statements with each different prompts that his organizations could run, or if they had one that they all shared, they would have to change it every time they ran it. So we needed a way to pass the information from some other place outside of the financial statement template that you're looking at, to pass the information that allowed the construction of the receivables into those three categories and the payables into those three categories. And the solution that we hit upon was creating address record A000, 5 zeros, A00000. So what we'll do is we'll come over here and to the main program, and we'll create address record A12345 zeros. It's very simple what I'm doing. Just toggle back and forth. The lookup code is your org ID code. So we just go back over to the SunPlus program and we put in the org ID code. So we want to put the org ID of the organization that we're implementing. And so organization I'm implementing, ARG811. And then we look over at my instruction sheet again. Then in the town and city field, this is the abbreviation of the next higher organization. The next higher organization's abbreviation is KUC. So we'll come over here to the town and city and we type in KUC. Simple enough. Continuing to follow my instructions. Then the state is the higher organization ID code. So the higher organization is ARG1111. And so I'll just come over to here and I go ARG111. The last one is the regional code range, goes in this short heading. So in the short heading, what is the regional code range? So we're implementing East Central Korean Conference. And so anything that starts with an ARG8 would be the range, would capture anything within ARG811. So everything within the East Central Korean Conference starts with ARG8, and that goes in the short heading. So we come over here and ARG8, and that, my friends, is all that we need to do. We followed the instructions here. We could double check. You could see it's illustrated, and like I said, we will from time to time be adding more things here. We may want to put other things over here, and we're not going to remake this video every time we do it. You just follow the instructions of this list here. It's illustrated with a picture. You hardly need the picture, but you can get a sense of it if you want, and you're good to go. And so what is happening with this is now when we run the financial statements and we run, for example, accounts receivable, the accounts receivable, so you can understand the way it works, these queries here to pick up the organization right above you and below you, we have to have a way to pick up the filter based on what is the organization above us. So the filter created here is going to go over here into this record and pick up the organization above us, and we need to know its acronym in order to populate the label. We pick up the acronym, and so it has to come from somewhere. And then to pick up the organizations within the field, this query here goes over and looks at the short heading, the ARG8. It filters for everything that starts with ARG8. And of course, if someone's, what about filter ARG8 percentage there, won't it pick up the organization? Well, an organization would never have its own ID as an account, so it's excluded automatically. That's the way that these receivables get the organization above it in there and organizations below it in there.